and happy Halloween. Welcome to our bedtime story video for this evening. So as you can see, I'm in a different location and dressed up in different types of clothing. I'm actually at the Conococheague Institute for a very special spooky story this evening. So our story for this evening is called The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It's a pretty popular story. It's based on the original story by Washington Irving. We have The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. In a valley by the Hudson River, there was a town called Sleepy Hollow. There were many tales of strange happenings in this town. Some people said the town was haunted by a headless horseman. One of those people was Ichabob Crane, a sweet-tempered teacher. Ichabob's students could not help but think that their teacher's arms and legs were just a bit too long for his body. In fact, he looked like a scarecrow. One of Ichabob's favorite things to do was stretch out next to the river and read spooky stories. The next thing that Ichabob loved more than a scary story was a young lady named Katrina Van Tessel. Katrina was known throughout Sleepy Hollow for her beauty. The beautiful Katrina had attracted the attention of a man named Brom Bones. Although Brom was rich and handsome, Ichabob could not give up. Ichabob went about courting the lovely Katrina, visiting her home and taking her on long walks in the moonlight. Brom became jealous when he found that Ichabob was also seeing Katrina. Brom began playing practical jokes. He tried to make Ichabob look silly in front of Katrina. One autumn afternoon, a messenger arrived at Ichabob's schoolhouse to give him an invitation to a party to be held that night at the Van Tessels. Ichabob knew that this was his chance to sweep Katrina off her feet. "She will forget she ever met Brom Bones," he exclaimed. As soon as school was over, Ichabob groomed himself for the big event. He combed his hair and studied his reflection in the mirror. Ichabob proudly mounted his horse like a knight in search for an adventure. But he was far from being a brave knight, and the horse he rode was not even his own. It was an old plow horse that he had borrowed. Ichabob was confident when he walked into the party. "May I have the honor of this dance?" Ichabob asked Katrina quickly. Soon they were whirling across the floor. Katrina smiled happily, but Brom stood in the corner, jealously watching Ichabob. Before Ichabob left the party, he heard some people talking about the headless horseman. The ghost had been spotted recently. Even though Ichabob loved spooky stories, he began to feel nervous. It was almost midnight when Ichabob left. There was hardly a sound except for the chirp of crickets. His heart was beating loudly. He began to whistle to keep his spirits up. Suddenly, Ichabob jumped in his saddle. "A ghost!" he yelled. Then he realized that it was only a tree. But soon he began to hear a thumping noise coming from behind him. When Ichabob turned around to look, he screamed in horror. The headless horseman was about to throw his head. Ichabob dodged, but it was too late. He fell off his horse and the headless horseman rode off. The next morning, a search party found Ichabob's horse, and a little ways from his horse they found a shattered pumpkin. Ichabob never came back to Sleepy Hollow. When the townspeople told the story, Brom Bones always had a smile on his face. Was it just Brom throwing a pumpkin, or did Ichabob really see the headless horseman? No one knows for sure. It has become one of the many mysteries of Sleepy Hollow. So what do you think happened to Ichabob? Do you think he really saw the headless horseman, or was Brom just playing a prank on him? Alrighty, well thank you so much for joining me this evening, and I hope you have a great rest of your Halloween.